What in God's name is going on in here? What was that ruckus?
What ruckus?
I was just in my office and I heard a ruckus.
Could you describe the ruckus, sir?
Welcome to Vacation Lander. This is
The Pine Tree Picture Show.
Today we're looking at The Breakfast Club and the breakout of the Brat Pack in 1985. Who was the pack and were they actually brats?
Yes.
Yes. Answered.
They were.
That's it. Goodbye. Thanks for
That's
coming.
the video. The film stars Judd Nelson, who's from Portland, Maine, as Bender, along with fellow Brat Packers Emilio Estevez, Anthony Michael Hall, Molly Ringwald, and Ali Sheedy.
And this was Judd Nelson's big break after a couple of smaller films.
Yeah, it came out the same year as St. Elmo's Fire, as well as Fandango, which had two other young ensemble casts.
And The Breakfast Club was a massive financial success. It was among one of the less than 20 films ever to make over 50 times its budget at the box office.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It obviously resonated with younger generations, and it continues to be relevant today.
Yeah, definitely. And that Brat Pack...
Well, how was the Brat Pack label formed?
So it all started with an article, and there was a documentary on this called Brats. If anyone saw that documentary, you probably know a little bit about this, but it was published between The Breakfast Club and St. Elmo's Fire, and it was about a group of young actors just out partying, being young actors. Mm-hmm. It likened them to a modern day Rat Pack, but they didn't do the article had commented on. They didn't do the work. They didn't study under great actors, and they didn't really study much acting at all. Really, they just kind of were looked into these circumstances that got them huge roles very young in their life. But it wasn't really that harsh, except for it was a little harsh to Judd Nelson because it described him as the overrated one.
Yeah. Some of the names in the article were pretty surprising.
Yeah, well, okay, so who is in the Brat Pack that you would typically think of? It's the cast of like the Breakfast Club and St. Elmo's Fire.
Yeah, so that's like Molly Ringwald, Ali Sheedy, Anthony Michael Hall, then also Demi Moore, Andrew McCarthy, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, and Judd Nelson. Yeah,
so those are what most people think of when they think of that label, the Brat Pack. But those first three names, Molly Ringwald, Ali Sheedy, and Anthony Michael Hall, those people weren't even named in the article, which, yeah, I thought that was really, really strange. So here is a list of everyone that was actually named in as a Brat Pack member when this article came out. So the hottest one of them all, Tom Cruise, who is 23. That seemed like the strangest fit to me.
He's not in any... I don't see him hang out with anybody.
Well, no. Yeah, exactly. In the article did say that he was the early breakout. He had already broken out of the pack with Risky Business. But then it went on with The Most Beautiful Face, Rob Lowe. Yeah. He was 21 at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
That makes sense. Again, the overrated one, Judd Nelson. He was the oldest of this group at 25.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah. And the only one with an Oscar was Timothy Hutton.
Who's that?
Yeah. He was in Leverage, and I don't know. I know he was in a bunch of stuff in the 80s. Clearly something to win an Oscar. The next one on the list, the one least likely to replace Marlon Brando. I love that label.
What a niche title to earn.
That's Matt Dillon. He was 21. And then this is the one that I thought was really interesting. I mentioned this to you. The Ethnic Chair, Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
That's
definitely the Sammy Davis Jr. of the group. Of the group of people who you wouldn't think, why is he in the Brat Pack? It's crazy. He wasn't in any of those movies.
No, I don't. But he still fits the mold of young actors who didn't really have to work that hard to get into the industry because he was Francis Ford Coppola's nephew. For those of you who don't know, spoiler alert.
Real life spoiler alert.
Real stories, they don't have spoilers.
So the most gifted one of them all, Sean Penn, I think that holds up.
Yeah.
I think he was accurate with that.
Yeah. definitely takes himself the most seriously, I think,
Oh, for sure.
out of this crew.
Yeah, definitely. And then the one that the article was actually about, Emilio Estevez, the whole article started as just something on him, but Emilio invited the writer out with him and Judd Nelson and Rob Lowe for drinks a few nights because he thought the journalist wanted to be friends with him, which is like, I don't know. What, man? What?
First of all,
It's like, what the fuck were you thinking?
well, I wasn't.
He's young and naive. Yeah,
But you're like, it's Martin Sheen's son. Like, how
that's true.
how did you not see any of this coming? You're in the industry. I don't want to blame him too much for it. I mean, even the author of the article admitted, like, he called and apologized. Even though years later he's like, yeah, I'm actually not that sorry because I wasn't that mean. I just thought there was collateral damage. It's fine. You guys are fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Andrew McCarthy wasn't.
Yeah. It sounds like he had a real hard time.
Yeah, he was, and he wasn't even listed as one of the Brat Pack members, but he was mentioned in the article as one of the Brat Packers saying, I don't think he'll make it. That apparently led him to create the documentary Brats as just a very long therapy session for himself to deal with something that he clearly never dealt with, just being mentioned in an article. But then I guess he was lumped in with this group. It's really strange. I don't know when it became in the media hellstorm that became the Brat Pack. I don't know how it shifted to include everyone from just the St. Elmo's Fire and Breakfast Club, and excluding films that it mentioned like Taps and The Outsiders. I don't know, it just kind of shifted into something new, which none of them really liked. And I mean, obviously they thought the article was really harsh and really toxic to their work relationships. So like Emilio distanced himself from the rest of them.
Working together just almost felt like we were kryptonite to each other.
And what makes that really sad is like Judd Nelson in the article was quoted saying, I think ensembles should continue forever.
Womp womp.
Yeah. But they never worked together again. And yeah, I don't think that really worked out that well for Emilio, or really, I don't know if it worked out for that well for any of them.
This is what most of them are known for. In hindsight, out of all their films, this is still like the big one that they're all recognized.
Yeah, if you
for.
look at all of their IMDb known for, I think Breakfast Club is in all of them, except for Emilio Estevez, who clearly is using his IMDb Pro subscription to change his known for section, which you can do if you pay for it. I will give you $20 if you can name 2 of the movies in Emilio Estevez's known for section.
Well, I mean, the one that I think of aside from the Breakfast Club would be the Mighty Ducks. No, frick. Young Guns.
Yes, I think it actually was.
Or Young Guns 2.
I think Young Guns 2 was in there. Actually.
Specifically the second one. Okay. I can't even. Mission Impossible.
Nope.
No. Okay.
You won't get it.
It's what's the movie he did with his brother Charlie Sheen?
Men at Work?
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
That's what I thought of. And that was in the article that he was writing Men at Work, and that was going to be a big directorial debut for Emilio Estevez. But the movies in his known for is The Way, which came out in 2010, Bobby, he directed in 2006, The Public, I've never heard of, and then Young Guns 2.
Okay. I've only heard of Young Guns 2.
The Way was pretty good, but it's definitely not what he's known for. How is the Mighty Ducks not in here? Are you that embarrassed by Gordon Bombay? But yeah, back to the Breakfast Club. The plan actually was for the ensemble to work together, not forever, but for decades, because one of the original concepts that John Hughes had for the Breakfast Club was to make it have a sequel like a decade or 2 later, and then another one following up. It would be like the Before trilogy, but before before sunset. Before any of that was a thing that Richard Linklater would do. It was considered by John Hughes beforehand. I think that would have been really interesting to see what the lunch club and the dinner club.
The lunch club. I could see those being really good plays, but I don't know how they would work as a movie.
Yeah. But yeah, they recently reunited. The group for the first time got together at C2E2, it was some sort of comic and entertainment convention. I think it was in Chicago.
Cool.
But yeah, the reason the sequel never happened was that John Hughes never wanted to work with Judd Nelson again.
Yeah, apparently Judd was method acting and harassing Molly Ringwald on set a lot.
Yeah, which brings us to our next segment. Method acting is bullshit.
Dear boy, have you ever tried acting?
Honestly, you see a lot of great actors using method acting as their method, whatever. First of all, just calling it the method is strange. I know there's a little history behind it, but it is, honestly, I just see it as people using it as an excuse to be an ass, because you never hear about someone using the method to imbue a role of someone really nice. Like, you don't hear about how Tom Hanks went method for 40 years to prepare for the role for Mr. Rogers. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how I feel about method acting, and I kind of agree with John Hughes. Like, hey, just don't do that. Stop harassing this child.
Yeah, she was like, what, 16 or 17 at the time?
I think she was 17. He was 24 at the time.
Yep.
You know, like, be aware that you're with the people you're working with, and be professional. And part of Judd Nelson's method acting was he actually went to a school, like he enrolled in a school and played the role of Bender, and like he's convinced that he convinced a bunch of high schoolers that he was in high school. And part of convincing them was using his quote-unquote fake ID to buy them beer. He just what happened, Judd, is you just bought alcohol for minors. You didn't convince anyone of anything. They just weren't gonna say otherwise.
Yeah, they had something to gain. All right, back to The Breakfast Club. So John Hughes involved the cast in creating the characters that they played on screen.
I like the fact that he was very collaborative. Yeah. He invited you into the process. What do you think? I've never had a director say, what do you think?
Yeah, and he really welcomed improvising. Like, a lot of the things that Bender did were things that Judd Nelson brought to the role. Like, when he caught his own spit. That, I don't know if that's a good thing, but man, I guess it's character defining.
Judd Nelson himself was cast wearing the exact same outfit that you see on screen.
Yeah, and he's not the only, just like John Hughes wanted to bring a lot of improvisation and let these actors build these characters, he helped let them build the wardrobe. So obviously taking the wardrobe from Judd Nelson's audition, and then also Molly Ringwald chose her own wardrobe. She just went shopping with John Hughes and bought an outfit that she thought Claire would wear. And I think she kind of nailed it. I think she did a pretty good job with that. One of the funniest fan theories I read, and this is, I'm sure people have heard of this, but the theory is that Allison imagines all of the people. The items that she stole from them, she had actually stolen like earlier in the week, and she was just went to school and imagined the whole thing. First of all, that's a weird, that's a weird theory. But also, it is the same exact theory, the fan theory from Friends, where Phoebe imagines the whole thing. Like, if Phoebe's like a homeless person sitting outside the coffee shop and sees 5 people talking and imagines a whole life with them. Like, that's the same theory.
Yeah.
And also very similar characters.
The odd one out is the one who's actually crazy. Literally. Yeah.
Oh, they must be schizophrenic.
Yeah. Just delusional people. All right, so what is it about this film that makes it so iconic?
Yeah, because it's been parodied and paid homage to. It's been homaged.
It's been homaged. Homaged.
Yeah, time and time again. And I think, if you look at it, the cinematography is very simple, but some of the shots are just absolutely brilliant. Like
Yeah.
that scene where they're just sitting down, just the five of them in one shot. That, I think, that is the most iconic shot in the movie. Well, no, second most iconic shot in the movie. The most iconic has to be the ending.
Though the
Bender-
freeze frame,
yeah,
that the credits roll over.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Like
gotta
that.
be, yeah. I mean, it's parodied in Family Guy.
And you can get this great Bender fist pump shirt at vacationlander.com, along with all kinds of other main movie merch. We've got all kinds of Stephen King inspired apparel, this really weird Batmoose shirt, and we also have posters and art prints as well. So check that out. It's vacationlander.com. And also, while I have your attention, because you weren't paying attention before, give the video a like and subscribe. And it would also be really useful if you know someone that might like this video, go ahead and share it. Use that little share link. That is surprisingly helpful to us. So use that, send it to a friend, send it to an enemy, send it to whoever you want. And thanks.
Yeah. So the dialogue is also super iconic. The line, mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of iconic lines. Eat my shorts. I think this is the first example that I know of that it was used. It was popularized by The Simpsons years later. But yeah, there's all kinds of great lines.
But also Matt Groening from The Simpsons, like he's known to take John Bender as an inspiration for a lot of his stuff.
Right, yeah, literally for Bender.
Yeah, like Bender the character is named
That's
after.
interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm
Eat
sure
My
it did
Shorts.
come from this.
Yeah,
That's
it has to have
fascinating.
come from it. Yeah.
Short.
Back to things iconic in this film, the dancing.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, that's been in Community. It's been redone. It's
Yeah.
been done time and time again.
Everybody wants to do that dance.
Yeah, it's the best. I mean, well, first of all, everyone can.
Yeah, everyone can do it.
It is the simplest choreography.
Yeah.
But it's
The
great.
dancing on the rail is such an iconic thing.
Yeah. Well, is that still part of the dancing sequence when Emilio Estevez runs and screams a window?
That's a different.
Yeah,
that's the
when
other
they're
dancing.
smoking.
Yeah, his dancing is just a workout routine.
Yeah.
Across the top balcony of
Just
that
doing
library.
flips,
Yeah.
and then gets to John Hughes's least favorite scene from the film when he screams, "The window explodes."
Yeah.
and he still thinks he thought that was ridiculous, and he was right.
Yeah. Well, you'd explained why that happened, right? The foreign language is on.
Yeah, so it says foreign language on the glass on the door, and before that, Bender says, "I don't even know what language you're speaking," or something to that effect. So it was symbolic that they were breaking the barrier there of that foreign language, but it was just a really cheesy way to do it.
Yeah.
Brilliantly symbolic, but the action itself was just silly.
Yeah. But going back to the dialogue, it's grounded in like what real conversations would be like, especially amongst teenagers, and that's really why it struck a chord with every teenager at that time. And that's
Yeah.
why every teenager can connect with it.
Yeah, and even teenagers now. I mean, sure, it's very different from a different time, but it's really about teenagers hating their parents. Or it's about that challenge of understanding your parents and your parents understanding you. And everyone has that challenge, especially as a teenager. So yeah, that's why it's so timeless. That's what it's about, rebelling against your parents. But hold on one sec. I just remembered something, and we need to talk about this. We need to talk about their lunch.
Do you mean the giant lunch that Emilio Estevez has?
Yeah, the 16 course.
Yeah.
Everything. But no, so it was interesting that Bender didn't have a lunch, so he's going through everyone else's lunch and just making a show of it. The meal that I found the most peculiar was that sushi that Claire was eating. That was not in a cooler. That they didn't go anywhere to get their lunch. That was just sitting in her bag in a bento box that was not sealed. There was no seal there. She just took the cap off of a bento box and just ate room temperature sushi.
Yeah. That is true.
All right, so what would you? We gotta finally wrap it up and rate it. What would you rate the film?
I gotta give it 4 stars. This is a movie that I grew up with, and like it's It's iconic in so
that's I think the best way to describe it is just iconic. And I think 4 stars, yeah, it's not quite up to the 5-star level, like not one of the greatest movies of all time, but it's more than just a good watch. It really holds up. There's obviously some language that has not stood the test of time.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it still holds up. I think 4 stars is what we're gonna give it. But let's remember, this is the Pine Tree Picture Show, so we gotta ask, how Maine is it?
It was shot in Maine, right?
Yes, in Maine High School, or Maine North High School, I think, in Illinois, in a suburb in Illinois. So it was shot in Maine.
Yeah. So does it get a pine tree?
No. It gets 1 pine tree for having Judd Nelson in it.
Yeah, that makes sense because he is from Portland. So
Yeah. So, but so it's not the most Maine movie, but it's still iconic, and we love it.
And John Bender as a character, played by Portland Mainer, and has influenced things like The Simpsons and Futurama. I think that's pretty significant.
That's really
pretty
is
Maine.
not to be overlooked. That's pretty great. And that's our show, folks. Thanks for joining us. Brian, thanks for coming over. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah.
So check out our other videos. Our last video was about Lost on a Mountain in Maine. Check that out if you're interested. Check out the playlist of other videos from the Pine Tree Picture Show, and stay tuned for more.